Yo, what's up, guys? Todd from zeotag.com, and today's guest is a longtime friend and a member of the original team that started the Hubspot Academy back in 2011. So you're going to get insights from the beginning and growth stages of what is now an almost $8 billion company. Stay tuned and you'll hear how a handful of 20-somethings with headphones and webcams turned educational video content into a massive growth engine that played a key role in building the stronghold position that HubSpot has as the go-to authority in the modern marketing industry. You'll learn how you can start attracting better customers, channel partners, increasing your lifetime customer value, reducing churn, building a crazy successful company, from the unscalable grunt work it takes to lay down the foundation of success, and how to pivot into the leveraged and scalable assets it takes to create massive success on a global scale, right? And that means whether you want to do content marketing, integrate an e-learning strategy, or use video for your sales outreach, engagement and nurturing, and even closing deals, we cover it all in this episode. And of course, if you're publishing videos online and you want them auto-transcribed, fully searchable, easy and seamless to navigate for your viewers by creating an actionable table of contents, head over and get your free account at zeotag.com today. Now, without further ado, here's my episode with Nick Sal, the original voice of inbound marketing. All right, Mr. Nick Sal, welcome to the Zeotag Show. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on, Todd. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we go way back to the early days of HubSpot when I first became a partner, and you are really the original voice of inbound marketing, right? So why don't you give us a little background on kind of, you know, where you got started and your journey through your career?
Yeah, definitely, Todd, and those listening. So I got started. I joined HubSpot, the startup, when it was just 250 employees out of Cambridge back in 2011, and my job was to basically help new users of the tool and the suite get up and running with it. And a group that I joined that was just in its infancy, and enough people to fit around a conference table, was the HubSpot Agency Partner Program, of which some very entrepreneurial and forward-thinking business owners like Todd were a part of. So Todd and I got to work together as Todd was bringing the platform on to area businesses and clients that worked with him, and I helped people get started. I wanted to help them get oriented to the program, and then for the agency partners, help them understand how they could build a business around the blogging, the search engine optimization, the email marketing, the website tools and features that HubSpot was building at that time.
Yeah. And so as part of that, you ended up being part of the program that built up the HubSpot Academy, right? So
that's right.
For companies who are, putting together this kind of customer success program with all this really great educational material around how to build their business, like, how did you guys kind of come up with the idea and start brainstorming the initial layout for what that would look like?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was very exciting to be at kind of the ground floor of a lot of great content marketing strategies that HubSpot was making its name and innovating on and doing. So you can imagine, folks, if you're trying to scale up supporting a large number of people for your software product, your service, whatever it is that you're trying to help people be successful with at scale, we started to realize, hey, onesie twosieing, like me talking to people one-on-one can only go so far. If I can talk to so many people, then we have to hire another staff member and they can talk to so many people one-on-one, and you kind of miss out that community aspect and the scaling aspect you can get from one to many. So there was a group of us consultants who started to say, hey, some of my customers could probably learn from other customers, and some of these topics I'm kind of repeating manually over and over again to people over the phone, or maybe your business or service, you do your selling, your servicing in person. So we started to come up with webinars. We said, all right, what's starting to come online is webinars were really coming into the forefront. GoToWebinar was huge. HubSpot was putting on multi-thousand person webinars and things like that. So some of us services people wanted to get in on that, and we started talking about the topics and the training we started to do on a webinar. And then, of course, we'd record that webinar. We'd share that off on a website page that customers could come back to again and again. That's how we got started. And then we said, wow, this is actually working. People are going to the webinars. First of all, we're able to service 50 or 60 people at a time. Webcams were coming into every single laptop. We could turn those on. You start engaging people and make a decent connection. And guess what? They didn't mind that it wasn't just them and me on the phone. They felt like it was anyways. They were, and I would actually get people to set up features and stuff as a group. Okay, guys, let's go build your first landing page. page. Let's all work together. Who's got an issue? Who's got a challenge? People would start interacting with us. And that was all like live video. You could kind of say that kind of came back. Strangely enough, with Facebook Live. People want to get together as a group. They want to have webcams on. At least they want to have the host with the webcam on. They want to feel like they're communing with a person in a real like classroom. We started to take those recorded webinars, though, and up the production value. We didn't have professional videographers. If you're wondering, well, can we be successful video? We were just a few 20-somethings at the time, turning on our webcams on our laptops, putting on headphones like this, and just going for it, and offering to help people however we normally did, just at scale. We put those recordings out there. But eventually that success allowed the marketing team and the customer success team at HubSpot to say, why don't we actually get some videographers, many of which are looking for jobs. I mean, there's more videographers out there than ever before. We got some people pretty affordably come into the company and use them as a shared resource, and then we started making higher production value videos. And those became not only customer success assets, things that we were doing just to help the existing customers do better, but they actually became great marketing assets. They said, how can you guys talk about best practices before they buy the product? What are some of these things? And that's where the inbound certification came out from, and how we created videos that could be consumed by tens of thousands of non-customers. And the data that came back from that, Todd, is they looked at it and they said, oh my gosh, there's more people looking at these videos than are looking at the traditional way we generated leads, which was through ebooks. And PDFs and downloads and little checklists and guides. And they actually looked at the data. Not only were there more people consuming this content than ever before with anything else we were putting out, but also those people, if you followed them down the pipeline, were actually converting into customers at a much higher rate. Because when I look back on it, Todd, I was like, well, no wonder, because we created an experience for these people. They could go through chapter 1, chapter 2. They got to hear voices. They got to see people. They got to see screenshots. It was a much more interactive experience, much more feeling of a premium experience. People were definitely spending 4 to 6 to 8 hours with us at a clip to consume this content, and they got this badge at the end. So we found a lot of success with that. And away we went. Over those years, that was like 2012, 2013. It went from 4 or 5 of us to 6 or 10 of us, and now there's over 30 people in that team. I've since left the company, but it's blown up from there. And Todd had mentioned I got this name as being an original voice of HubSpot. It's because I was seeing that video was coming to the forefront. A lot of other people in the company were kind of nervous to be on camera, and I'm just sort of a performer, a ham by nature, like you over there, Todd. You know, so I was just like, hey, put me on, man. I mean, I'll talk to people. And I started getting to product videos, which the marketing team started making for the first time. I started doing narration and voiceover. And again, what I want the listeners to realize is, you see, maybe if you're into marketing software, you know HubSpot today is this big success story. But back then, even with all the promise we had back then, it was just people figuring it out using GoToWebinar, cameras on our laptops, a couple of junior entry-level videographers who just come out of like film school or whatever, freelancers and the like, and using ScreenFlow to record screens. And we're cobbling that together first in like iMovie and then like Final Cut Express. We were not videographers by trade. We were not trained videographers. We didn't look at ourselves as such. We just said, we're trying to help people succeed. We're trying to get people fired up through marketing. Let's harness this medium, and we'll get better and better the more we practice and the more we do it. And we just iterated from there.
Yeah, and I love that approach, and it's actually something I started batting around last year in 2019, and how this Zeotag show came about so quickly was we started Zeotag in October of 2019, and I right away hit up my network and said, hey, can we jump on Skype and record something? I just want to start creating great content for the audience. And it's this idea of what I'm calling season 0, right? Because when people want to get started with a show, they get hung up on all the things like, oh, well, we don't have a videographer. We don't have all these things that, high-end, production, blah, blah, blah. I don't know iMovie, and you don't even need that today. And I thought to myself, like, all right, well, we're growing like a really great high-tech startup, so I'm going to need to figure out my background, and do I need to buy a new mic? And, well, then I need to figure out how to do graphics for lower. And I'm like, you know what? If we just do a season 0 and get started, and then in season 1, we'll take care of all that stuff, right? So it kind of it liberates you to just get started and create great content that your audience is going to love, they're going to find valuable. And like you said, when you're educating people, 1, you're educating them to become a better customer up front. And 2, you're creating this experience that's visual, audio, you're in their earbuds, they are more likely to buy because the know, like, and trust factor goes through the roof with that kind of experience. And because they're educated and set up to want what you have and be able to use it successfully, not only are more of those people going to convert into customers, but they're going to be great customers for you because they're going to be very successful.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And Todd, I'll add to that part of what I did at HubSpot Academy. Now, imagine the story is playing out like what Todd just described here.
Yeah.
We were getting the success because people were being able to spend more time with us. It felt more intimate than static content, than the written word or just graphics and stuff like that. And we were able to put it out pretty cheaply and effectively. And people felt like we were serving them because we were taking risks and putting ourselves on camera, taking the time to make this additional mode of content, which was kind of at the bleeding edge at the time. Yeah. So one thing we were doing is there was a kind of active, not very active webinar for all of our agency partners. So if you folks have resellers or franchisees or channel partners, whatever it is, people who are even just evangelists of your brand, whether formally or informally, those people want to commune deeply with your brand other than just filling out a form. Yeah, I'm a certified reseller or partner now. Great. Yeah. And so oftentimes these indirect sales forces are all over the country. They're kind of a volunteer effort. They're doing it for the love of your brand or the potential they see in partnering with you for business. We didn't really have a great place for them to rally. And there was one intrepid marketer who had bought a snowball microphone and it kind of had like a sort of an office hours for the agencies that are partnered with us, and they would have sort of a rotating set of topics and so on. But I got my hands on that webinar. That marketer was spread thin. I got my hands on that webinar and I said, I'm going to do just what Todd said. Yeah. People don't want to necessarily hear from your brand. They're thinking of themselves as the hero. They want to hear from other people who are like them, not the person who has a very clear motive, like the sponsor of the webinar, the putter. That's very clear what your motive is. Right. How can they relate to other people like them? And I just intuitively got that. I said, let's find, if I want there to be more successful agency partners, I want more power users of HubSpot, I got to go find out who the passionate power users are, the successful agencies are. I got to go get them on this show, on this office hours like webinar that we were doing, and have them tell their story. Yeah. So if you're wondering, how do I create content? And I don't want to just be the talking head myself. That's a good point. You should do what Todd's showing you here. Go find the people who are doing what you're trying to show others that they can do too. Have them come on and tell their story. Todd didn't have to twist my arm to be on here because people naturally like recognition. They have a natural incentive to build their brand. And if you thought you were nervous getting into video and that time that takes, think about everybody else who's not doing this yet. So this is an opportunity. Yeah. I get to be on here with Todd. I get to get myself into a video in a market that I care about. I'm into digital sales and marketing. And so I'm just saying a great way to have an immediate, almost endless feed of content is whoever you're talking to in your industry that's killing it. If you're in sales, if you're in customer success, if you're in marketing, get those people to come on and tell their story and share with other people what they're doing. It'll be easy for them to do. No script is necessary, and they're passionate about it naturally. So everybody wins. And I just intuitively understood this. Yeah. And then suddenly people would come on. We eventually branded the webinar, called it the Partner Broadcast. We'd eventually get 150 agencies from around the world coming on to see who I was going to bring on the show that day. And we turn on those webcams and we start getting people talking, and I'd have multiple guests. Eventually, because the success stories I was finding and the agencies I was getting on, and they dial in from different countries and around the world, and with just a little bit of prep time, they'd tell a great story about what they've been doing to kind of succeed in the program. Other people in the company said, wow, can I talk about this cool HubSpot feature my team has built and we want to promote? Because suddenly they almost like wanted to sponsor. They want to get some ad space on my show here. Yeah. So that's how things can start to snowball. And maybe some folks listening in on this want to also be able to generate revenue from their video program, or they want their video program to sort of start to gather its own momentum and have other people want to get in on it. That can happen, folks. And again, I want you to realize that was just me it wasn't my full-time job to host that show. I did that for a few hours a month of prep time, got people who would kind of source and deliver their own content. And I was just sort of the MC like Todd does here so well, scheduling the show, lining up the speakers, running it, and making sure people give out the information that they want to have given out and captured in the video. Yeah. So it was very successful.
It was awesome. And it was awesome to see grow, and like at the time it was weird because I think at the time a lot of us we come from this world of inbound / like helpful marketing, right? Like very much helpful over hypey stuff. Like we just want to serve and provide information, and it became natural to just like having these conversations and putting them out, whether it's blog posts, videos, whatever. And I think, showing that authenticity and passion, like you talked about, makes it so natural for the viewers to connect with, and know that there's not necessarily an ulterior motive, but it does eventually lead to success. But when you were, you kick off the academy, and what were some things that you learned that other people could take away if they have an existing online course or academy style thing? They're doing e-learning for their company, but maybe their students aren't engaging in the content enough, or not completing the courses. They're not consuming and becoming successful. What tips do you have for people to kind of take their existing training material to the next level so that it's more higher performance?
Well, that's a good question. And what comes to my head, Todd, if I can be blatantly honest with people, and I think that's what you want, is you got to do a lot of hard work. Yeah. It's not something where, there's just this little tip, this little trick. At least not back when we were getting started. Our video. So first of all, you're like, how do we get into e-learning? Should I get an LMS, like a learning management system? Should I start buying tools and software? That's not where the HubSpot Academy's team started. Yeah. We started with, let's get the content prepared. Let's have good workshops. Good webinars. Then it became good decks, good screen, good screen sharing, good audio, those types of things. Which again, this mic cost me $60. It's Blue Snowball mics are certainly affordable for most people. Try to do this, low tech, off the shelf type lighting and software and stuff. Nothing special in that regard. And we would just embed our videos. We use tools like Wistia, which I know you know and love as well. Wistia is a great company. We would use that tool we record it and capture it, edit it in Final Cut, and then we'd embed it on Wistia and then put it on landing pages. These are just website pages. There wasn't really another way to do it at the time, at least not accessibly for us, back in the early 2010s. And so if you're trying to get more people to go into it, it's actually a matter of promoting it more to people. You're going to have to, and it might be hand-to-hand combat, and going out and promoting it directly to people. Go check this out. Doing social media posts directly to folks, and doing it a lot. We had talked about how do we increase more views to our content. You're going to have to get the word out. You'll have to find somebody else who already has a platform. Can you co-market with people? Can you be a guest on somebody's show? Can you bring in a bigger name? So at first I was able to get some people to come because I just had the good success stories, but you maybe hadn't heard of who these people are because they're up and comers like everybody else. But then eventually, if you want to start to really bring in massive, larger names at scale, you're going to either have to share lists and share spheres of influence, basically having a guest from a big brand, co-market with big brands. We were doing co-marketing with Facebook. We were doing co-marketing with LinkedIn and Salesforce. That all came later as we started to gain traction. Or bring in somebody who's got a big name, thought leaders, Gary Vaynerchuk, Pete Blasja, people who were known in and around the digital marketing space. We got them to kind of co-star or cameo in some of the training material for the flagship certifications we wanted to grow, like the inbound certification. After that point, now you're getting more people to come because you've worked hard. People are seeing that you're here to serve. You're putting a lot of time and energy into the product because you're promoting it a lot, and also you're drawing in bigger brands and big name brands, known people. If you want to get people moving through the training, you're going to need to use things like automation, workflows, triggered emails, and those were big head scratchers for us to figure out. And being able to create those trigger points. That's where a learning management system like an LMS probably could save you a lot of time. We were already using HubSpot. We made HubSpot, so HubSpot had workflows and stuff. So we were able to we had some advantages being able to trigger workflows off of people visiting certain pages and not. But if you have a problem with people moving through, learning management systems have a lot of built-in features designed to deal with that nowadays. So they'll send reminder emails. They'll help people pick up where they left off. So I wouldn't want to try to build that all from scratch like we did at Academy. I think you get an LMS, you set up certain triggers to keep them moving through, but also you need to build up the value of what completing your course might be. This was a big thing is HubSpot, also the Academy, we spent time evangelizing the people were certified. We wanted to build a desire for people on LinkedIn to look for the inbound marketing certification on the LinkedIn profiles of people who took our course. So if people aren't going through your course, maybe it's not that your course material isn't easy to follow, but maybe they just say to themselves, well, why should I finish? What is it? What is the carrot at the end? Do they get a badge that's recognized in the industry? They qualify for a deeper level of access to your material, chapter 2, chapter 3. Do they get a discount on buying your product because you are now proven this visitor is now proven to be more successful using the product or more knowledgeable, and therefore they'll cost less to service maybe or something like that. What can you offer the person to help them feel like they crossed that finish line and they won something? This is why anybody goes through to complete anything, is to get that reward at the end. So build that up a little bit more too.
Yeah, I love that. Incentivizing, really providing a value at the next level for what they get. I really love that. And I'm going to take that tip to the Zeotag channel partner program that we'll be building out. So I love that. And I think, a big thing, and this is what I love, one of the things I love Zeotag about is that in our application, whatever your LMS is, you can use Zeotag to automate and create the chapters within an existing video so that people can see exactly what topics are being talked about and they can click through to watch that specific thing. But even better is once someone goes through, like it's easy to go through the motions and complete a program and say, great, I got this, and I put it on my LinkedIn. But then a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, when it comes time to actually apply something that you learned, it was in and out of your ears at the time. And so now, like with something like a Zeotag, it makes it easy to go back and search for that little nugget, the 3-minute segment that was in the middle of video 5, right? You can search and find that stuff with Zeotag, or search within a specific video. That's one way to reference back and find content to be applicable when it's ready, for someone to put it into practice. But what were some other ways that you made sure that when students went through the program, they ended up actually using the information?
Oh, yeah. And actually, you were talking through some things there, Todd, that reminded me of challenges that we had. Because I was so interested when you told me about what Zeotag does and the product and things like that. It was very difficult for us to put chapters in. That was one of our first struggles. Great, we can embed this video, but the video is 25 minutes long. Right. And we always see the view rate drops off over time. Yep. How do we help make it easier for someone to get to the first step, which is completing the first chunk of this video, then the next chunk? And we had to spend a lot of time using the chaptering features of something like Wistia, and a lot of tools have this now. That's very manual to go find the timeline. Great, stop there, add in the chapters. That took a chunk of your busy workday to do for every single video. It was really difficult. And then we also had another challenge where if you're doing this at scale and you're featuring a lot of different people, especially people from your own company, which I recommend you do, those people come and go. Yeah. So suddenly we'd have two challenges. One is we're trying to teach people how to use a product or service or whatever, like we did at HubSpot, and like you'll do, you folks listening, and then the feature changes, the program changes. Now, unlike text, which is hit Command F and go find it and go change the blog post and publish, this video is a work of art, was produced in an app and got to be published out. So now you have to go, okay, that one feature changed. Does everybody remember out of the dozens of videos we've now made across the multiple different certifications where we showed or talked about that feature? Because the feature no longer looks that way. Maybe it doesn't even exist. Maybe it's called something else now. Yeah. That is like, it just was, you didn't want to think about it, honestly.
Yeah. That's like, a great use case I didn't even think about.
Figures it out, right? Yeah. Well, you're reminding me. I'm like, well, where could we have used that? So we had learned a lot of like, okay, how can we design the videos so that if features change, we kind of know the sections. What we started doing is we started putting the parts where we would show parts of the product and certain predictable parts of the video. So at the very least, we could go back and find it. But that was an ease of convenience for us. That wasn't necessarily the best thing to do for the user, but we had no choice because we didn't have AI and stuff like that back then. Now, the other part was, what if a staff member leaves? You have somebody who comes on with a cameo or something, they're not relevant anymore, or a staff member was in charge of producing a certain set of your videos or multiple parts of your videos, and they're not there anymore. There's a reason. How do you find where all those times that person was mentioned or said or brought on?
Well, and actually something that you and I didn't even talk about is that Zeotag actually does speaker identification. Right. So it will know who's saying what throughout all your dozens of hours of video and be able to pick that up. So not just them saying like, hey, welcome, it's Todd, but we actually could search exactly for a particular speaker.
Right. So you see the challenge of your video will probably be more interesting to your audience the more guest speakers and subject matter experts and brands and people they can relate to that you bring in, but you also start to create a compounding problem as those people's brands, their presence in the company evolves in the background of your video. And how do you quickly make sure your videos stay in sync? I think that's one of the biggest challenges if you're going to be creating video that's going to be formally part of something that people will come back to again and again. And want it to be truly reflective of your brand. So I just want to I wanted to touch on those 2 points, but the question you had asked, Todd, was how do we get people to follow through afterwards? man, that was tough.
Yeah.
I mean, we really, because we were not the product team.
Right.
We were not the customer service team or the support team. We were a dedicated team, the Academy team, where because we were successful enough making these videos in this one-to-many format, that's all we did.
Right.
It was all day. Multiple staff members were coming up with videos and so on. It was tough for us. The best thing we could do is to have there be follow-up email workflows, so emails that go out to the person who had completed the certification. How are you doing so far? Giving them suggestions of things to do if they had just finished the certification, things to do if they're 3 months in, 6 months in. And something else we did was, you know, you go through all the effort to get them to come and commune with your brand to get this certification or complete this learning experience or watch this video series, whatever it is. And it's an amazing moment, right? Maybe you drove a sale from it or whatever. But then afterwards, they've now moved on. What's the next thing? And if you're probably creating e-learning, it's because the knowledge of whatever you're teaching is not out there. It's new. It changes. You might have a special angle on it. So when you're in an industry like Todd and I are in with marketing and technology and SaaS, like that stuff is changing quite often. So we were like, what's the continuing education component? Now, I don't know. We were weaker on our ability to actually drive the follow through with the visitor because our job kind of stopped at they got the videos done. They completed the exam that was at the end of the training, and they got the badge. We send an email off to the user, potentially occasionally checking in to make sure they're following through. And we could also trigger emails to go off to relevant service members or sales team members at HubSpot who might want to check in with those accounts and say, hey, just so you know, your account completed the certification, or it's been 3 months, 6 months, 9 months since they did. Do you want to check in with them? And we suggest some information. You could auto message out at scale to people to both the user and people who support this user, try to get that going. But something that we did that I thought was smart, but I don't know if we cracked the code on the best way to do it, was to create a sort of continuing education expectation and a habit and a program in Academy. So we would refresh the inbound certification every year. I mean, do you think that what we were teaching in 2014 is still relevant as it is in 2019? Not all of it. Some of those websites don't even exist anymore. They're bought up or stuff like that. New channels and new technologies come in. Consumers have changed. The technology platforms have changed. So we'd have to basically create a habit of needing to refresh these certifications every year. Something to think about, because that's effectively technical debt we took on. Like, now that we said we're going to refresh it, and we're going to create an expiration date on this badge that said you got the latest. Because how fair is it to say, oh, yeah, you're a certified inbound marketer if you went through our videos and took our exam 9 years ago? It's not. I mean, that certification no longer holds weight. I mean, every profession that's trying to be taken seriously out there in the world has some sort of a continuing education requirement.
Absolutely.
So if we were out there to try to legitimize and provide credibility to people in this emerging industry and practice of inbound marketing. So we wanted to create that sort of come back, get the latest. We created, this badge is only good for 12 months, and you got to come back and retake the certification. But our users were going to get on us pretty quick if they said, you made me come back and go through another 6 or 8 hours of video that's basically the same thing. You had to refresh it. And that became a habit for every certification we did. And suddenly you don't have time to go create the next new certification, because who's going to refresh the old one that's about to expire?
And I can say, and it worked too, the credibility side of things. Like in an industry like marketing, like, you get if you're a lawyer, you go through law school, you pass the bar. And if you're a doctor, you go through all that stuff. Like, there's no barrier to entry for marketers. And so there was, at the time, and still, unfortunately, because it's such a huge industry, still happens, but like, there were people trying to, question me, potential customers that would say, well, okay, I know you have an agency and a team here, and you want to charge $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, but I just talked to, this 22-year-old kid who bought a DSLR on eBay, and he said he can do my social media for $200. So what's the difference, And when you're an expert in your industry, like, you don't realize that what you're saying, that that the clients don't know your language, so they can't they can't differentiate. So having credentials from a HubSpot, from a digitalmarketer.com, from all the different kinds of programs, that has made a huge difference for me in the industry. And I would say for anyone selling products or services or software or whatever, if you're selling to anyone who's not in a certifiable field like a lawyer or a doctor, I think being able to give credibility to people is a huge thing.
Yes, that's exactly right. And that's what we tried to do. And that's why we wanted to continually refresh the certifications, give them an expiration date. And what you folks will need to figure out is how, and this is what I think, having tools and software like what Todd is talking about could be helpful, is how can we go back and update something quickly and easily? This tool falls out of fashion. This best practice no longer is relevant. How can you quickly go back and find the aspects of the training or the video you made that now needs to be updated because just those parts, not the whole thing.
Right.
That's what we
I
got.
don't have to redo 8 hours of content, right? Like, how do we just find maybe there's 45 minutes, but it's all scattered throughout that need to be updated, And that's a great thing. I think
you guys should be talking to HubSpot Academy, man.
We should be. Hey, if you still know anybody over there, hook me up.
Oh, I sure do. Yeah.
But I think another cool thing you guys did was, and this wasn't on all the programs, I forget which one specifically, but was having, what was it called, like a practicum, where you couldn't just answer questions to pass a test, but you actually had to prove, and that goes because the certification was tied to the software, so you had to use the software successfully. You had to get a 20% conversion rate on the landing pages. You had to get X click-through rate on an email. There were all these industry standard metrics that you had to show you knew how to do the work in order to get the certification, which I think, one, it gets people practicing rather than just memorizing the content and answering true-false questions and whatever. But getting the hands-on, real, proving that they can do it. The hands-on that they go through, they remember it more because of that. But two, now your certification holds even more weight because it's not, hey, yeah, Todd sat through 8 hours of videos, memorized the answers, or went back to the study guide and clicked through. But it's that Todd ran successful campaigns that hit the metrics we deem to be expert level, and now he gets this certification and badge and stuff like that. And I thought that was really a genius move too.
That's exactly right, Todd. And I think that there was a missed opportunity that other folks here, since I've gotten into sales in the last few years, I've been in sales at various other digital marketing agencies that partner with HubSpot. I've always stayed involved with inbound stuff like that. Is to create a practicum, because we actually at Academy, when we came up with that, studied what's good learning. How does one teach well? And you have to practice. You have to apply what you're teaching. That's obviously a great way to retain knowledge, is to apply it, because that's why you learn something. You want to apply it. Right. So while that was actually difficult, and Academy, I think, missed an opportunity, because they said, okay, go and set up these features that you just learned about.
Right.
So this is specific to the HubSpot product certification. Yeah. But someone now needs to assess whether they've done that work well. And there was a challenge with that, as first dozens and then hundreds of submissions started to come in to HubSpot Academy every month. Who's going to click through and check to make sure the work was all done correctly? And right there was where maybe they could have taken a different road, because they said, well, that's like a time challenge, and we just need to figure out how can we cheaply and easily get someone to look at it and approve it so they can just get that badge. Right. And so we did actually solve it leveraging some HubSpot customer support people who were quite savvy and knew what they were looking at. They would just kind of go through and check and go, yep, they did those items, they did those things. And by the way, folks, you can get people to submit things to you if they can be shared over links and URLs or PDFs or files, or filling out an assessment or something like this. But we chose to have that be like a support challenge, where I thought that was a huge sales opportunity. Think about it. If you're creating a video series because you want to be attracting people who want to learn and know what your company, your brand, and they desire it so much that they want to get your seal of approval that they know and understand what they're doing, and you are ambitious enough and ethical enough almost to say, I understand that people won't truly be able to say they know what I'm talking about until they've applied it in some way, in a way that can be evaluated. And hopefully you've got something that you can actually evaluate remotely from a distance. They can send it into you. You can log into it. You can review it and see it remotely. You've got an opportunity there to have your sales reps be the people who evaluate that. In today's inbound world, people want guidance and advice. And they want help doing it right. People crave feedback. That's why the digital agencies I've been at, we've done things like website reviews and website throwdowns and stuff like that. And those are very, very popular webinars and video series for people to see, to learn from, because they want to see, did I do it right? Did everybody else do it right? So what can be done, what I think we should have done, or HubSpot still could do today, is we got a lot of information about this person. If they sign up to take a course, if you're using the right analytics tools, they're now built into a lot of LMSs, but we even had this at HubSpot, page analytics. You see what videos videos they're spending the most time on. So you have all this great lead intelligence. Hand this off to a sales rep who wants to leverage that information. Look at their attempts to apply what they're doing without your product or service in the first place, or without your service help, and then go say, hey, I'm going to review your practicum, your test, whatever it is that they're doing to apply, and give them feedback, which I don't think you're effective in sales today if you're not viewed as a trusted advisor, or better yet, a teacher. Yeah. So why not let your sales reps be in the teaching mode, saying, hey, I reviewed what you had put here. You're pretty close. And if we could just help you with a couple of features, a couple of different services that we do, you could probably get there. But if not, here's a couple of tips. Good luck to you. Yeah. Most sales reps would be dying to be handed that opportunity, and to have somebody who's willing to automatically, by nature of the position, take their wisdom. Help me. Tell me how I should do it. You know, that I think we could convert. We could be converting a lot more leads over at HubSpot if they had the sales reps involved in reviewing and giving feedback on that work.
But just to be clear for everybody watching, which I do think what you're saying is great, but there is a caveat or context that needs to be put around it, is that these have to be salespeople who understand that they are a trusted advisor. They are not piranha, hard-pushing salespeople that say, "Hey, you just filled out this form, you just applied for this, and now I got to get you to buy something." Right? It's approaching it from that helpful, trusted advisor position. And honestly, when you have a product or service that you truly believe in and you're passionate that can help transform someone's life, there becomes, and you said this as ethically before, but it becomes a feeling of obligation that I need to enroll you in this program or in this software or in this service, because if you don't, I know the consequences will be damaging to you. And when you can have that conviction as someone who's here to serve and help, and taking that approach to it, now you're tying together someone who needs the help. They've gone through they're pre-educated, pre-qualified, and when you can come at them to be helpful in getting what they're set out to do, that's where the real magic happens.
You couldn't have said it better, Todd. And I think that's the second chapter to my video story that I can share with all of your watchers, your listeners, depending on what format they're choosing here, is after HubSpot went public, it's just a tremendous experience to see HubSpot Academy evolve, the company evolve and grow and scale. Company went public, and I decided that I wanted to stick with the inbound movement, but I wanted to work with smaller businesses again. I'm just more of a scrappy entrepreneurial type guy, and I've worked with a lot of these certified agency partners. I've worked with 3 of them now, in helping them help more customers succeed. And I wanted to get into sales, something I was kind of too intimidated to do at HubSpot, but I wanted to get to flex that muscle. And I'd recommend it for anybody who's interested in businesses to try selling, and I've really enjoyed it. But Todd, I believe that video and the use of video in the sales process is that mechanism that will force, or really just empower, sales reps to be more advisors and to show their passion. Because what we started doing is we got tools like Vidyard Go Video, but there's also Wistia Soapbox or Loom. There's a lot of providers out there where sales reps at the point and click of a button.
There you go. Darius was on one of the previous episodes, so you guys could check that out.
Oh yeah, I mean, and by no means do I feel like I've used the best versions of whatever's out there.
They're all very similar, to be honest.
But it just occurred to me, when you say something out loud, you have to say it with feeling or conviction, or it's going to obviously come through. I mean, sales reps today are in danger of becoming irrelevant because they're falling into templates and drop this text in, personalized tokens and stuff. And that's all well and good. But what's really standing out in this noisy marketplace of every other rep and system that's trying to automate the text and everything is suddenly a video shows up. And you folks can be doing this. I'm sure if you watched some of Todd's episodes, you can see how easy it can be done. Just to press a button and go, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I couldn't help but notice that XYZ. Hopefully it's something you can remark about their company, their website. Again, something that's accessible to you because you can see from something that's accessible over the web. You can record a video, give them some advice, give them some feedback, because there's no way you can record a video and not have there be some emotion and some passion in it. If not, it's going to be pretty obvious you don't have it. And it's pretty obvious when you look at the metrics that your video is not interesting. Nobody gets that type of in-your-face metrics of you're not hitting it, bud. And I had a lot of experience in these and a lot of success in the last couple of years of sending out short videos with some advice on how people could improve their website, improve their content strategy, a couple of quick tips or tricks, and I could show my screen and my face and just give them a couple of bits of advice. And I would send out 20 or 30 of these videos at a time. And maybe only 4 or 5 people would actually reply back. But those 4 or 5 people, they watch the entire video and they're blown away that I took some time to actually give them some feedback and advice which is the only way I think you're going to make a successful video in a sales email anyways. Right. And you can do it actually efficiently if you get good at it. You end up looking and spotting for the same tips, the same best practices, but you kind of in the video very briefly, you want to make this video short, customize it, personalize it to the prospect, send it out. That was a big game changer in the last couple of years, Todd.
Yeah, and I totally agree. We've done it only a handful of times so far on the agency side here, and I think we have 100% response rate. And people are even the people who say, "Oh my God, like thank you so much for the tips." Like we're not the place to hire or whatever, but like it. But always a response and always so grateful for it, right? And we've had some that were completely cold outreach where we've done, had their website up and said, hey, I noticed you're missing the Facebook pixel on here, and there's an easy way to do it. And if you wanted to target, look, and this is the Facebook audience I built around the geo thing that whatever, it took a couple minutes. If you're interested to see how this works, and like that went out to a cold, complete stranger, and 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Not only replied to the email, but they actually they found the phone number, called up, said, hey, this was perfect time, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. And I think it is, video is really the way to stand out in all that, in the noise that's out there. And look, marketers ruin everything, right? And the reason is because once something works, it starts to spread. And so, like you said, when you have these templated outreach emails, like they will work for a very short period of time, but then all of a sudden the person's getting 10 of them a day, and then it doesn't work anymore, right? It's like, marketing tactics are like jokes, right? They're really funny the first time you hear them, you still chuckle the second time, and then eventually like you just don't laugh anymore. And that's what marketing tactics are like, and that's why there's no way to oversaturate your face or my face and our voices and a video of me talking about your business when I'm reaching out, right? That can't be oversaturated, and it's because it's hard work and it doesn't scale necessarily as much as other things.
Well, and I'll just add to what you said which is even if other people are going to get into using videos in their outbound sales messages, and it's something, no longer is a novelty and it becomes something that everybody's doing. It's still, like you said, Todd, people want to hear your emotion, they want to hear your passion, and they want to sometimes have things broken out in the spoken word in a conversational way. So even if your outbound emails are competing now with other video emails, what I've also done as a salesperson the last few years is including video and follow-up. Hey, Jane, great meeting we just had. I really want you to know, like I said on the phone, I'm super excited about what you're doing, and I want us to be a part of it and to help you grow, or whatever it is you're saying. And you can say, I've got a few links for you right below to summarize some of the things we talked about and some things I promised you. And also at the very end, you can like gesture down like this. There's my booking link at the bottom where you can book that next call that we were talking about. So those types of things, it's great to throw that in on the back end after the appointment, no matter what. I've also done recordings of the actual proposal. Sometimes it's tough to track somebody down for a meeting to review the proposal, but oftentimes your contract, the proposal, whatever you're showing them, lacks context. It lacks the oomph that you'd want to give in a live meeting, but I want to get that proposal out. So what I've done sometimes as a stand is I said, listen, in lieu of a meeting, which I'm still perfectly willing to have, and here again is my booking link, I want to do a quick walkthrough, just a few minutes of some of the higher points of the proposal you're about to see, and I want to just zero in on a couple of items that might seem a little confusing. I just want to clarify. You can do that. I mean, there's just ways I've saved myself a ton of time, Todd, and anybody else here can do too. Even afterwards, those are going to be timeless things because people do want to have things talked out to them. They do want to hear your emotion and your sincerity, and that's just going to be relevant. We're just very lucky today to have those tools.
Absolutely, and I think actually, one, they want to hear it, but two, I think it's dangerous to send a proposal document with no context, right? Like I think it should only be presented. And in the event where you need to get it out, but you can't schedule the live meeting, this is a great way to talk through it, right? Where you can provide the context 100%. And reiterate all the value that you talked about here. Remember, we talked about your goals were this, so that's why we're including this here, and you provide that value. And I didn't think of it till now, but another use case for Zeotag, let's say that's a 10-minute video walking through a few-page contract. Well, now you can have the chapters and tags of each segment of the contract. So they watch that video through, or they just want to jump to the part where you're talking about SEO services or whatever, and they can click through, So
100%. 100%. That's even more important because people want to see people want to report on sales activity. And when suddenly things are showing up in video, there might be a fear of, well, I used to be able to scan the spoken word or be able to segment things that were listed in certain fields or forms of a CRM.
Yep.
I guess now with Zeotags, I'd love to see more about it. You're able to basically pull those up as they were mentioned or brought up in these videos. And go ahead.
And you touched on having the data, right? And so we're actually able to track who clicks on what and what parts of the video they watch through all the tags. So you actually could see not just that someone opened your email or clicked to read your proposal, but now you can actually see what parts of the video proposal did they watch and were they interested in? Did everyone just click right to the pricing? Right? Mm-hmm. Or did they watch through? Did they go back to anything? So that's really valuable data for salespeople to have, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And my takeaway for anybody who's looking to get into video, whether you want to get started with e-learning or you want to get started with using video in any point of the sales process, is just jump in and begin. And I'm sure you've heard that before and your eyes might roll a little bit. Easy for you guys to say. You guys can talk a mile a minute, But I don't know how we got that way, how the comfort got there was from this is not our first rodeo.
Right. Well, and that's it, because we started at some point, right? Like the first time we got on a microphone, it wasn't like this.
No, and I will tell you, a couple of years ago when they finally said, hey, did you know, and we want to start adding videos into your sales messages and stuff like that, it was tough.
Yeah.
Even for me having been on camera multiple times, just not in this context.
Yeah.
So I would try to find quick and easy ways I could do it. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I can have the first impression I set with a prospect or review a proposal on a video, if that doesn't jive with you, find some aspect of the customer's life cycle with you. Maybe it's when they complete their certification or something to tie it all together. Maybe it's when they are completing their 3-month anniversary of being a customer or whatever. You do something unexpected, something that has no standards in your company right now, has no other expectations. You turn on the camera, you deliver a few messages, you deliver a few sentences of something genuine, passionate. Just wanted you to know I'm happy you did blah, 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 and you got to this point, and good on you, and hit send. And just watch yourself break the ice and see the comments that come back. It's going to be appreciated.
Yeah, that's a great way to add surprise and delight, and a great way to kind of tie all this up into a bow. So thank you, Nick, so much. So many great insights here about building the academy, creating e-learning content, creating videos, using videos in sales. We really ran the gamut here, as I knew it would be super valuable. So thank you very much. So where can people learn more about you and what you have going on, and how can you help people?
Yeah, right now I'm working with one of HubSpot's top agency partners. We do design and development. The company's called Media Junction. So if you're interested in saying, well, how could I work with people who create video content, who help create websites featuring videos of all kinds and do the inboundy HubSpotty thing, head over to MediaJunction.com. It's spelled just how it sounds. That's the agency I'm with, and we can certainly have a conversation through there. You can also check me out on Twitter at Nick Sal Inbound, and we can also connect there as well.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Nick, so much. And thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll have all these links in the show notes as well. And until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.